everybody, hope you're all doing alright out there. Today I want to talk about the most important skill you need to learn on a motorcycle, but not only do you need to learn it, you need to practice it, maintain it and improve on it, and also try it in different conditions. Now the reason this came up was, as always, I put a little clip onto TikTok and it was just me stopping for a red light, so let me just show you that now. Now I honestly think for some people, their emotional baggage and their physical... Quick stop. Okay, so as you can see, I checked behind me, there was no one there. I know my bike, I know the tyres, I know the conditions. It was a short stop, but I did it for the challenge, to practice. The pedestrians were nowhere near to be at risk or anything like that, and I was well within my limits of doing what I was doing there. Plus, I could have, if I wished to, carried on, and that's another thing that people will say to that. And the truth of it is, as I put in the description, yes, I know I could have carried on, but I fancied the challenge. The point to me is, I'm amazed how many people thought that that was like risky or close to the limit, or not worth the risk. I think it's definitely worth the risk, because I want to be well practiced at doing emergency stops in all conditions. Now those roads at that point in time were extremely slippery, greasy and nasty, but even with a bike with no ABS, you can feel it out. If you're experienced, you can do these things. But as I've said before, it's always about not only maintaining your abilities, but trying to continuously improve them. Now I'm not saying here that I'm the best rider in the world. I just put it up as like, oh look, I had a little challenge to myself to stop on the line and managed to stop on it nicely. Well, that's a satisfying little short. And then I get told that maybe it's dangerous, and I'm like, well, if you consider it to be dangerous, then I agree, it is dangerous for you to do it. It doesn't make it dangerous for me. And that's not me being big-headed, I'm just saying that for me, I felt confident in that, I felt no risk. If you see that and feel there's risk, or you may be interpreting it different to how it actually went down, or maybe your skill level makes that look that way. And that's not me trying to say, as I say again, I'm better than you, I'm just saying I'm experienced. I wouldn't have even considered it to be dangerous, it's just it's a risk, maybe. What I'm talking about here is stopping. Sharpish. Don't need to put your feet down. During the motorcycle test and the CBT, you are required to do an emergency stop to show that you can do it. You're not allowed to lock up the rear. You can stall it. And you don't want to pull the clutch in. I've got a video on how to emergency brake. So this is my question to you. How often do you actually practice emergency braking? Because when it comes down to that time that it may be the difference between you going home and you're not, your abilities, they're the things that are going to make the difference. And if you're practiced, it should be easy. It's also a lot of fun. Just make sure you look behind you and there's no one there. Now I think this goes without saying, if you go and practice emergency stopping after watching this video and you deck it because you're trying to push too hard into your skill set, that's not my fault. This is something you should progressively learn, but it's something that should be a good skill that you have now. A lot of people are like, I can wheelie well, I can corner well, I can get my knee down, but it's like, can you just rip the brakes on without ABS, if your bike hasn't got ABS, and stop in a very short amount of time? This neatly ties into something that came up in discussion a little while ago, basically saying, are bikes without ABS safe? Well, of course they are. We've used non-ABS bikes for a lot longer than we used ABS bikes, and I'm not saying that the old brakes of the day were the best, because obviously they weren't. They were rubbish, and the more modern the brake is, the better they've become, and ABS is a fantastic aid to everyone. Geesies. And yes, it does mean you have to have a lot more skill when it comes to emergency braking, because on the modern ABS bike, you just pull the brake on and the bike will stop. If you yank it on too hard, if you do it wrong, if you try and ask too much of the tyre at the time for the temperatures and stuff like that, with your knowledge taken into that, you can just lock up the front wheel and then you're just washing out. So, low siding, just... Or you do a really scary wiggle and then poop yourself a little bit. Get away, boulder. So yeah, do you practice your emergency stops? Got any thoughts on this? Comment below. And now I'm just going to tell you about a funny story of how this video started, because it was a while ago now. So this morning I got to leave home. Derek says 83 miles on his dash on my tacho, which means I've got about 20 miles of fuel remaining. For some reason, I'm going down the road and he starts spluttering. Well, he does 1 or 2 splutters. That's what the DR does. It just goes, I'm happy, I'm not really happy, and just dies. Clever chap here realised he'd left the bike on reserve. That may have been since I rebuilt the bike. So I had to do the whole game of tipping the bike over to the left to try and get the fuel over the hump of the saddle tank. You know, if you've got a dirt bike, you have a tank that's got like a U shape, like a horseshoe shape to it, and you can get that sort of trap piece of fuel over to give you just a few more miles. Well, I had to do stop, throw it over the side, ride a bit, stop, throw it over the side, ride a bit, like 3 times, but I rode home. I didn't have to push it a single inch. But yeah, that slightly delayed how this video was starting out this morning. I want to top the tank up and now we're good as gold. Sorry about that, Derek. I left you dry and thirsty. I don't know what happened with the tacho. I'm guessing I must have reset it at some point after I filled the bike and didn't realise, or didn't fully fill the bike at some point, but I doubt that. Must have been just me resetting it at some point by accident. So yeah, as I say, if you've got anything to say, comments below. If you enjoyed the video, smack the like button. If you want to help support this channel and help fill this tank with fuel when I remember, then please join Patreon. I would really appreciate it. And a massive thank you to the little influx of people recently. I'm really glad you're getting on board. It's really helping out, and yeah, thank you. 2023, here we go.